So guys, welcome back to episode 2 of my Budget Bonneville, and behind me I've got many Chinesian boxes. I've bought almost every Chinese extra that you can for this bike. Some of it's actually come from Germany, so it might be Germanese, I'm not totally sure. I'm going to start unboxing some of this stuff. I've bought multiples of some things and some things that I'm probably not going to use, but for instance the rear lights, I didn't want to just get one option in case it didn't go to plan. So I've got a couple of options. I'm going to start unboxing this stuff and we'll see what goodies we've got. So Chinese part number 1, and it's definitely Chinese because it's got Chinese writing on it. It's a rear tail light, very, very small one. It's tiny. Tiny little thing. So my idea behind that was that it might just tuck up underneath the seat, maybe if the bigger one doesn't work. So I'm going to put all this stuff on the bench. Chinese part number 2. Appears to be another version of a brake light or a second one. Ah, okay, so it's a slightly different version of a brake light, slightly bigger. Same sort of concept though. Not totally sure why I bought 2 of those. .3M sticky pads. Again, I think that was just preemptive. If I had to stick anything down, 3M pads are quite good. They're the ones that come with the GoPro, so I figured they'd probably hold something. Because those little brake lights don't have a mount. Oh, turns out we're only on brake lights. So this is what I really want to fit. This little thing. Looks kind of distorted. You can see that. It's just a little bit weird looking. But the idea was, if I'd have thought about it and left just a little bit more room, that might have gone on there. But moving on, the other ones, the other options, I mean that could be quite cool, very subtle, quite modern looking. We'd make that work, that could be quite cool. Quite a subtle little thing, very sleek, and it means I won't have to modify the seat. Chinese! That must be black in Chinese. That's quite cool. This was one of the parts that shocked me actually, was how they could make something this cheap. So this comes with oh, I'm going to pull my teeth out doing that, that was silly. This comes with its own little number plate light. So this is a number plate hanger. It's anodised billet aluminium. I figured if I could bend that top bracket to fit, tell you what, I might be able to make something like a bracket. God, there's brake lights everywhere. Might be able to make a bracket that sits the brake light on there. That could definitely work. But how do they make stuff like this for £25? Look how many parts there are. It's all adjustable. It's just all, that's a really cool bit of kit for £25. And it comes with a little LED number plate light as well. Headlight guard. That's going to look quite cool, I think. I was curious as to whether or not this was going to fit. But it doesn't look like it will. Bend it maybe? It's too small. God's sake. I even got a ruler out. I got a ruler out and measured it. You saw it in the last video. I checked that they were long enough, but didn't check that they were. Oh, nearly dropped the headlight. This is just an illustration headlight. It does fit over that, so I might be able to bend it. I mean, I could probably fit that with a hammer, I would think. Tweaking. Oh, I might have broke it. I think I probably broke it. I think that'll work. I think that can work. I'll have to just go on the inside there. Oh, they're cool. Oh, Chinese. They make so much stuff, don't they? The Chinese, they make so much stuff. Without the Chinese, would there even be a modifying industry? Honestly, this bag feels weird. This is like a weird texture. I wonder if I can get it open with a hammer. It's impenetrable. Don't know why I need to get them open. You know what's in there. They're the micro indicators. They're meant to be super bright as well. Little smoked lenses on them. Pretty cool. They're going to replace the great big chrome ones. I'm hoping they're going to fit. I really do think we need to get these open. This is kind of something I want to do now. Find something sharp. God, even though I've cut it open, I can't get them out. Should put some hold music on, shouldn't I? That's going to look wicked. I might even actually get a battery and see how bright they are. Christ, they are bright. I've just shined that in my eye now can't even see if the camera's picking it up. They're cool. One thing I was thinking actually, with doing all of this conversion to LED lights, and I suppose we'll figure it out as we go along because I don't know, but on Land Rovers, whenever I'm putting LED lights, you have to change the indicator relay to stop them flashing quickly. So I don't know if we're going to have to do that on the bike. If you're watching this and by the end of the video I haven't figured it out, help me out, will you? Because I just don't know. These are the Germanese parts. And I say Germanese because they're from a German company, but I suspect they're Chinese. These come from a company called Moto. There's a list of bikes. Nice U-Box, Wave 100, GTO, K's R. Don't know what any of those bikes are. Oh, I nearly launched that. I nearly threw that, and there's a couple of shock spanners in there. £122 for the pair. Look at that. Obviously that's not the right way around. You go that way around. Might not be a direct fit, but we're definitely going to give it a go. So I'm trying to possibly fit the bushings from the old shock absorbers into the new ones, because this diameter is too small to fit over the Triumph, I think, at both ends. So I managed to get the old bushes out of the shock absorbers. So in theory, if I can make these fit the new shocks, it might work. And they're quite similar shock bushes. This is the second time I've dropped that. I feel like this can honestly only go badly. I'm probably about to stab myself in the hand with a pick. So what I'm trying to do is separate the rubber and the metal so I can get a bit of penetrating oil in there. I think I'm just going to commit to cutting that. I think I'm going to cut the rubber. I'll try for maybe another 2 seconds until I get bored. Right, I'm going to go get something else sharp. Do you know what I was just thinking? I'm carving this bush out. So what I'm trying to do is remove the one that came with the German shock, the new one, and replace it with the one from the Triumph shock, which is a bigger diameter. Then it got me to thinking that actually this hole, without any metal insert, is probably going to be the right size. So is there a reason I can't just fit it on that? Not totally sure what the purpose of these inserts are, other than to bring the diameter up and down. I can't see that fitting. That's not going to work. Well, I've got a seized bush on the bottom, so I'm going to leave that up overnight, and hopefully it comes off tomorrow. Probably won't, because it's British and rusty. I just figured I'd do a little bit before going home. Figured you might as well join in. Trying to get the bottom bush off the swing arm, which is now moving a bit, but if it doesn't come off, I'm going to add some fire. One suspension bush off. So today I'm going to get this rear end back off it, as I'm going to have to modify my Chinese number plate bracket to fit the back. I'm going to try and stop focusing on the whole Chinese thing, because actually some of this stuff's pretty good. I don't know why I use it in such a negative context, but we'll try and stop that. So we're going to get this off. I'm going to get the tank, the fuel line repaired. I've got some bits to put on the tank, and I'm going to start fitting up some of the lights. So I've got to make some wiring modifications, because I'd like to be able to use the original Triumph plug to wire in all of the tail lights, indicators and number plate light. Might as well be minus 200 because it's freezing. So I'm going to get this done. I got shock fitted, obviously, as you might have seen a little bit earlier. And what I decided to do was just go with the rubber bush only instead of having the metal insert, and it's quite tight. So I don't think that's going to cause a problem. But again, this is not an all-out racing machine, so it's not going to be a massive problem if there is a little bit of play at a later date. I can't imagine I'm going to notice it. So yeah, let's get on with it. And I think in hindsight, what I've realised is that I could have left a little bit more on that number plate and it would have solved my problem. As I've decided that I don't want to shorten the seat, I'm going to try and fit this little tail light, but with the seat on it, there isn't quite enough mudguard sticking out to bolt that on cleanly. So probably going to have to build some sort of bracket for that or something. So my plan is, oh, this is just going to keep following me. I have to hold it here. My plan is, they're the two original mounts for the mudguard to the frame, but this is too wide, doesn't fit in between there. So I'm going to trim this down to fit in between those. I'm going to put longer bolts through it, and then I'm going to nut and bolt this to the back side of it, because this sticks out just far enough that it will probably work. And then I'll probably then I'll try and build a bracket that will mount the rear tail light as well. So that's the goal for the rear end. If I can get this rear end finished up, that'd be quite cool. Quite cool. What do I need to do? It's funny, I build a lot of stuff on camera, but for some reason with bikes, I always turn into like a bit of a weirdo. Everything feels awkward to do. So I'm gonna have to get some noisy tools. That's going to fall off. That's a terrible idea. Here's a sharp thing that I left earlier. I'm going to cut this and I'll be back. Cut that. Where's the thing? How does this happen? Every single time. Magically, I've lost the torque bit. Aha! There is no conspiracy. Don't worry guys, I found it. I know you're all hyper stressed there. So these bolts, guys, are going to have two functions, and I think I need to go and get some washers for that as well, really. Right back. Washers. So I think these are going to be long enough to hold the mudguard up and leave enough thread exposed that I can then nut and bolt the number plate hanger on as a separate item, so that I don't have to unbolt all this to take it off. Yeah, I think that's going to work quite well. One number plate hanger does exactly what I wanted it to do. That's weird, isn't it, that that's worked first time. One slight problem, that when I was throwing all the packaging everywhere, what I didn't realise was there was a very specific little screw in there that holds the number plate lock on that I can't find. I need to be a bit more grown up next time, I think. Yeah, that's going to work quite well. I think we can get an Allen key and tighten those up. Now, I happen to know that I had an Allen key out when we started doing this, which of course is now gone. I'll go and get another Allen key. You will never guess what. I actually put that back. How strange, how bizarre. Now, I happen to know from experience, anything Chinese like this, really good idea to pull the original fixings out and put a bit of Loctite on them. So I'll have to come up with something creative to sort this wiring out, I think. That's the gap that I'm working with at the moment. Just going to stand back and have a quick look at that. My other options, I have two slightly different brake lights, side and brakes. I think that's probably the one that I prefer. Don't look very well made. Sticking something like that to the top, maybe? Maybe I'll revisit this. I'm very indecisive, so maybe we'll move on to something else. Now I must find the arch nemesis of spanners, the 13mm, which I bet out of the 5 sets of spanners I own, I don't have one. I always forget about that toolbox, but it's always got the tools in it. Right, I'm going to go and try and find a bolt for this. Okay, so indicators, number plate light. I think we're going to go with the tail light, the little thin one. No, don't get distracted, just move on, get something else done. I think a good one, we'll get these big chrome indicators and headlight bulb off and get that painted so we can get the headlight put back together. There's a whole bunch of wiring in here, so hopefully that's reasonably self-explanatory to put back. So how does it all come out? It looks as though all of these plugs will only go with each other, so it might be okay just to unplug all of this. Why not? I suppose there's nowhere to hide wiring on a naked bike, is there? So it has to put it in here. Oh, these plugs are full of water. Well, that's good, isn't it? And there's at least 600 plugs in this bloody headlight that I currently can't get through the hole. I can already tell this is going to be an absolute pain in the neck to put back. It was at this point that I gave up with the Budget Bonneville. What am I stuck on now? I am not having a good time. Whose idea was it to paint this? I actually quite like it in chrome. Look how much wiring's in there. I feel like there's as many plugs in this headlight as there was when I started. Christ. Christ. Right, well, one headlight bowl. Woo. What other goodies did we buy? Oh, I can already tell that's going to be a pain in the ass to do. And I know what you're thinking, I haven't put the Triumph badge on first. And that's because I'm going to glue it on, because I lost the little retaining clip things. It's not a bodge if it works. I didn't say where's bodge, I said it's not a bodge if it works. We have got a dog called Bodge. Sorry, now my wife is in the background hindering this very professional motorcycle video, Shelby. No, we do not need a mic on you while you're singing next door. This is a man channel for men, doing men stuff. Wives are not allowed. I've got a runny nose. See, I was looking at her for some kind of sympathy, but nothing. Yeah, the fuel line is dead. Oh, that's going to be a pain in the neck to change as well. Of course it is. What are those plugs for? So I've pre-stripped all the ends of the wiring. I've got all this OEM wiring. I'm going to tin this, and tinning is the process of getting a bit of solder onto the bare copper, so that when you go to solder the wires together, there's already material on both ends of the wiring. So I'm going to tin all of this now, and then I'm going to start trying to work out which wires go where by looking at the old light, seeing if I can figure it out. Yeah, so I've got a soldering iron. Perfect. And a bit of heat shrink to make it a tidy job afterwards. This is Ed China. It would be good if she was as good as Ed China. We'd just have her working in the background and I'll just take the credit for all the work, but no.
I don't know who Ed China is.
This is Ed China's Mike Brewer's right-hand man. Was. I think there's a bit of awkwardness there now, but... Okay, so I'm going to now try and work out which wires go where. There was me trying to figure out for probably far too long why I didn't have any ignition lights, nothing would work. I put a battery pack on it, couldn't figure it out. Of course, what did I disconnect earlier? Everything in the headlight. So all of the wiring in the headlight was disconnected, meaning that none of the clocks or anything were working. So that stumped me for a minute, but we got there in the end. So why was I even doing that? And you mustn't forget to put your heat shrink on, because I forget that all the time. Watch me knock that box of heat shrink over in a minute and absolutely lose my head. So we'll start with a black. I'll turn the ignition off while I'm soldering so that I don't cross circuit anything. And am I being a mong here, because that is where I put the wire in. You watch me solder all that together and then realise shortly afterwards that I threaded it the wrong way through the frame. That would be funny for you guys. As I said, this is just trial and error. I could, in theory, go and get a voltmeter, but I'm not going to. Nice. Right, well that works. I'm actually going to voltmeter that, because what I don't want to do is wire the number plate light into the brake light now. So I'm going to voltmeter that and check. That's an indicator. It'd be helpful if I start with the right one, as I suspected. The reason that was flashing is because LEDs are incredibly sensitive to voltage. So where this bike's on charge, it's got like a weird type of voltage current running through it. This is being a bit of a pain in the arse. I may end up having to get a second set of hands. I did actually buy one of those magnetic mounts once that has little grips, claw type things, but who knows where that is. So I, as suspected, need an LED indicator relay, as it's not picking up a resistance. It might be that I solve that with some inline resistors. It might be that I can find a relay that fits this. Hopefully it's just a standard 4-pin LED indicator relay, in which case I've probably got some for the Land Rovers. So I'll dive into that once I've got it all sorted, but that is it all wired up. I'm going to tidy all this up now, tape it all up, mount that wiring back where it's meant to go, and just try and tidy it up a little bit, as it's kind of ugly. So I've got some black tape. It's not really working how I'd hoped. So I've got a selection of zip ties and some conduit, as I figured the conduit might make it look a little bit tidier. So, slightly interesting problem. This is a standard size UK plate that, when fitted, one, it looks bloody awful, but secondly, it actually covers the indicators. So I don't think I'm left with much option except to put a slightly smaller one on, as they don't stick out very far. Maybe trying to find like an extended version of that would have been a better idea, but we'll figure that out. I think I'm going to have to put a smaller plate on there, unfortunately. Well, not unfortunately, a little cooler, but I quite like sticking legal, because it's just easier than getting the hassle, isn't it, of policemen pulling you over and complaining about all the things that are wrong with your motorcycle, especially if you're off-road, because on Salisbury Plain around here, they really hate motorcyclists. At least that's the impression I get. But smaller plate is going to be the only option, and I think it is going to have to be angled up like that. Yeah, I think that actually is a really cool profile. Doesn't that look awful? Yeah, that's actually a really cool back end. Isn't that cool for like 20 or 30 pounds or whatever that part was? So you've got both rear shock absorbers on now. I did actually manage to remove the fuel pipe. Wasn't actually as bad as I thought it was, but it's like buried down in there. So it might be a bit of a pig to put back on. There were some plugs that I thought might be for a fuel light, but doesn't appear to be a fuel light on the dash. And that one doesn't look like it's been plugged in years. So not totally sure what that is. Equally, not sure what that is. So I'll probably figure that out. But we're getting quite close now. I've just got the front end to do. Just going to build this headlight back up once I've got that painted. And I think then it is time to get the bike running again. Do some preliminary test rides. And then once I'm happy that it rides okay, let's get it booked in for an MOT and get it out for a ride. Which probably won't happen until it gets a bit warmer, as it's freezing. I've got a bit of fuel line, and taking it out was the easy part. Putting it back was a pain in the arse. Bit of fuel line, I've left it the full length so that I can put the tank on, cut it to size, to shape. And then I'm going to try and start the bike in this video. I think that's probably where I'm going to get to. I need to order a plate. The people that I deal with normally can't get one, as they're not legal. So I'm going to have to order something that's just a little bit smaller, and I'm only going to go marginally smaller, so that I can avoid any potential legal problems with that. So I'm going to try and get this tank fitted, a bit of fuel in it. I've got a bit of fresh E5 fuel that I'm going to put in it and see if we can get it running. I really want to hear what these exhausts sound like. So, where are my cutty thingies? Measure once, cut once. The thing with working with this fuel pipe in the cold is it really doesn't want to move. I just went up to the local parts factory and just bought like I think it's like a meter. So I think actually I'm going to unplug that breather again and give myself a bit more room. Fuel. As I mentioned, I give it the best chance by having some E5. Hang on, I forgot to do the breather. Don't appear to have any leaks at the moment. But is that because the fuel's off? First start. as you guys saw, we had some pops and bangs and flames. Obviously it's not been run in probably 8 months or 9 months, so it's a little bit probably clogged up with rubbish. Those exhausts might be a bit loud. Might not be able to make that work. I have had one of the other viewers, you might have seen in some of the comments, offer me an original Scrambler exhaust at really sensible money, but he's miles up north. So I'm going to try and make that work if I can, but if not, we'll run that with the helmet on and everything else, and maybe it's acceptable. But I mean, open headers on a bike like that might be a bit much. But there we go, guys. We are nearly at a point where this bike's rideable. I would think that that will probably clear up running up the road, but if it doesn't, I'll have to take those carbs off and sonic clean those. I do actually have a sonic cleaner, which is quite handy. But yeah, what a cool bike. Just got to do that front tyre, the puncture and the headlight, and we are good to go. I'm on the handlebars. What do you think? So I've got my headlight bowl and all the relevant parts now painted and sorted out. That is just an aerosol finish. So I scratched that down with a 180 grit sanding pad, bit of etch primer, and then satin black over the top. Should be dry enough to start fitting. Obviously I'm going to try and fit this part first, then I'm going to assemble all this with this headlight. So try and figure that out, and we'll see how it goes. Wow, what a pain in the neck that was, feeding all those plugs back through that hole, but I did manage to do it without damaging any of that satin black paint. So I'm just about to cut the, oh hang on, just about to cut the plugs off the OEM indicators to fit to my new indicators, and then plug those back into the loom. Then I'm going to assemble the headlight and see if I can get all that back on today with the guard, which I think I'm going to try and fit behind there. So same principle as before, just soldered on the original connectors, which I'll now plug into the loom. The only thing that I'll probably have to adapt is the side light, which I've got to wire into the LED on the outside of that headlight. So I'll get that done, get it all fitted up. Guys, I love the way this thing looks. That is exactly what I envisaged. And the quality of light that that produces is going to be 10 times better than the original bulbs. I wonder if you can switch the lights off. I think I'm going to probably modify the wiring so that I can actually turn the headlights off on this, because that's not an option at the moment apparently. And annoyingly, since fitting it all up, the ring around the outside has stopped working, which is bloody annoying. So I'm probably going to have to take that back off and have a look as to why that's not working now. Right, so that was a wiring fault. I used those connectors. I tried to cut a corner and had to solder it anyway. So do it right the first time, guys, and you won't have to do the job twice. Now you can see that that outer ring is illuminated, but I would like to be able to turn the headlights off so that you can just have the ring. That'd be quite cool. So I might have to figure out a wiring adaptation. There's the headlight on, so one step closer to MOT, and I can see that that's not quite level. I'll figure that out later when we do the headlight aim. Badge to do on the other side. Number plate, which I still haven't ordered, and then I've got to fix that puncture, and we're good to go. Thank you for tuning in to another episode, and if you can, click the subscribe button, as it really supports channels like mine to grow. And we want to try and get to that 1,000 subscribers as soon as possible, as that's when we can start to think about ploughing a bit of money into this channel. I've got some really exciting projects coming up soon. We're going to get this Bonneville finished up, and then I've got 2 more projects to follow on behind it. We'll do some riding content on this, but the other 2 projects, one of them is very, very cool. Tax and MOT exempt project, and again, it's an off-roader. So click the like and subscribe button, leave a comment, any suggestions, I'd love to hear it. Thanks for watching.